Okay, so for some more inspiration, so that's the kind of things that happen with the sort of talks that you do and the presentations at Thinking Digital and TEDx. You've also got a photograph that inspires you. Can you show us that?
Yes, I cheated and I brought two, so I
All
hope
right,
that's okay.
brilliant.
I hope
Yes, of
that's okay.
course.
I won't go on too far, but these are two fish. I'll start with this one here. It's a little bit perhaps more obvious. Should I show it to the camera? Yes.
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can see it. Is that and what this is? It's a picture of the audience at Thinking Digital, and I realize this seems horribly self-promotional, and it's not meant to be that.
No.
What the reason that I brought it and the reason it inspires me, and there are of course other photos we have of it, is I mean when when I came to the Northeast, my 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 big idea. I mean, ultimately, I was inspired. Sorry to make this all about Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, but
Yeah.
they met at a homebrew computing club, networking event in
Yeah.
Silicon Valley, and that's how they literally met. And and of course there are many many other stories. There's a whole economic theory about about the value of clustering, but by some very smart people at MIT and other places like that. Uh, um, and that I mean, well, I might as well, for the purpose of this photo, go into it just really quickly, which is just they did it was actually a joint study between Cambridge and MIT looking at this so-called thing called clusters, and you'll sometimes hear about economic clusters, and that this is they're super valuable, and they were kind of like, okay, so what is it about these clusters that makes it? And so what they
Yeah.
did is they compared the greater Boston area to the United Kingdom and a region of Germany, right? So
Okay.
three different countries. And the reason they compare those three things is because they all received, roughly speaking, a similar level of federal and private research and development money. But you won't be surprised to hear that Greater Boston greatly outshone them all. So, I mean, one of the things that I learned about in this journey was around something called cluster theory,
Yeah.
which is a formal economic thing that people talk about. And it's more than, I mean, to some extent, it's kind of self-explanatory that, clusters of people get together and they do cool stuff, right? But it goes a bit further than that. And I actually learned of research done formally between Cambridge and MIT in the United States, looking formally at clusters. And what they did was they compared three areas of the world: the greater Boston area, a region in Germany, and the UK as a country.
Yeah.
And they did that because all three received roughly the same amount of research and development money between federal sources and private sources. But Greater Boston as a unit just did far better economically, their
Right.
ability to convert that into. And so they were kind of looking around, and so, they had the normal sort of usual explanations about the, Americans are just generally more risk taking, culturally they aren't ashamed of failing and all that sort of stuff, right? And of course, there may well be something there, right, sort of thing. But I think what they discovered was, through extensive interviews and research, was that one of the big things about Boston was that because it was a smaller geographic unit,
Yeah.
where obviously the chance of getting to know someone was easier because you were literally in the same sort of space, right? Um, that there is perhaps a sense amongst the people there that networking is part of your job, whether
Right.
that's for the company or just for your own personal career.
Yeah.
And so the big thing was ultimately this is, and I'm sure you've been in situations like this where, someone comes in and presents something. Maybe they're trying to sell you something. It
Yeah.
could be a job interview, whatever it might be, right? And you go, well, it sounds pretty cool, but like, I don't want, how do I know? Because obviously you've sat there all formally, they've presented their best face, and now you're trying to really find out what's really happening here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the thing about Greater Boston is the ability for someone to privately, discreetly, confidentially pick up the phone or drop an email or have a quick coffee and say, God, I met this Peter Bull guy and he seems really good.
Mm.
We want to invest 5 million, but what, do you know anything?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, more often than not, they will. And they, and they'll say, you know, if anything, put in 50 million with Peter because he's underselling himself. I guarantee you that, right? There's a lot more there, and he's got so much potential. Or, of course, the opposite, which is that Guy is brilliant, but he is so difficult to work with, right? And he will not,
Hopefully not.
and so he should stay in research. He should stay in academic setting. You should pair him up with someone that's commercially patient enough to, you know, tease out some of that value and then put it into a commercial. So these kinds of basically, the actual, genuine, honest chats.
Yeah.
But if you don't already have a pre-made social connection with these people,
Right.
because you haven't met them at conferences, you haven't met them at whatever it might be, it's much harder to do.
Yeah, so that's what makes a difference. Is sort of speaking to someone else that you trust about someone else you don't know yet. That then helps build trust with that new person. So is that the kind of thing where Thinking Digital can kind of foster that kind of connections? Is that why that's inspires you?
Well, that's a big part of, what we try to do, with our events, is try to create that, what we call pop-up community. Right?
Yeah.
And I've had so many anecdotal things about people who met other people there, and at the very least, I mean, in some cases they've had babies and got married.
Oh, wow.
In some cases, obviously, a lot of friendships extended over time.